Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here. This video I'm going to be kind of summing up the Q&A that was done today on Twitch with Warcraft, Devo Lore, and the lead game designer Matt, and I don't remember his last name. This is actually pretty informative overall. There's a lot about gear and itemization because that's one of the main things that this dev kind of oversees. As always, I did take some notes, so apologies if it does seem like I'm reading some things. I will be reading off of my notes to at least an extent, and we'll kind of go through the things that I thought were most interesting. So first, I have here adjustments to secondary stats in 7.1.5. Just kind of giving thoughts on that. The question was just that very generalized in that way. So if you don't know, they did adjust secondary stats in 7.1.5, basically added more of them to the items so that way, or less in some cases, like basically made it so item level mattered more is what their goal was. So if you had something that was 15, 20 item levels higher, it might be better even though it doesn't have, let's say, crit on it. That was their goal at least. It worked in a lot of cases, but it didn't work in every case. I know for Ret it helped a lot, to be honest. A lot of the stats are a lot closer now, and I take a lot of upgrades that I don't have necessarily the best stats on them, unfortunately. I wish I just got upgrades that had the right stats. Basically, that they felt like overall it was okay. They're still working on tweaking those. Pretty satisfactory answer. I'm pretty satisfied with that change as far as I think there could be better changes, but for what they had to work with, I think they did a good job. And leading into that, the next question was about reforging. Again, if you don't know, reforging was a big thing in Wrath of the Lich King, and that's what helped me become one of the best Fury Warriors because I had so much armor pen. So reforge everything armor pen. I had armor pen trinket, and my static armor pen was 100%, and I was super high damage. And I really liked reforging because of that, because I had such a good experience with it. They said no. Again, this has happened before. They didn't really give any good reasons for it. They do want players in some way to have control of their stats, though. So, just the way the game's going, I'm kind of theorizing that. Again, this is just me thinking out loud, kind of, but I think they might do something along the lines of choose one stat to not have on your gear, kind of thing. I can't say for sure, obviously, but I could see them doing something like that. Or if it has that stat, it cuts it in half and gives you a different stat or something like that. Because they're not going to let you reforge, but they did say they want you to have some control, so you can kind of just theorize from there. A question was asked, do you optimize the set pieces or legendary stats? So like a lot of the Rat legendaries have mastery on them for some reason, which is worthless. So it was kind of a silly question. Obviously they don't do that, optimize the stats or look at that at all. Kind of dumb really that they don't. Why would you give someone a strong item and then not have the right stats on it is kind of silly. Next question was about tertiary stats, meaning like avoidance, indestructible, speed, leech, for example. Basically saying, are they, players are ignoring them because they're weak. He said that they were meant to be ignored if you want to ignore them, but they aren't necessarily weak. If you have all gear with leech on it, for example, you're going to have good results with that as far as staying alive. And if you have all gear with avoidance, then that's going to help you in any kind of AoE situation. So they are strong, but you can ignore them. You can do any boss without them, but if you have it, it makes it a little easier. Another question was, would you have changed Legion Legends in hindsight? He said they would make them drop more readily. So they didn't want to have them dropping super fast where everyone had full Legends the first couple weeks and then they had to nerf it. And then anyone who got a late start would just be way behind forever. But he did say he wished they would have dropped a little bit more readily because they kind of, by the end of the expansion, they did want you to have basically all the legendaries, and that's not going to be the case for most people until they just make it so where they just drop all the time. Narrowing, and then they said narrowing the gap between utility and throughput legends, that's something they're still working on to this day and addressed a little bit in 7.2. There's a lot of questions about legendaries. There always is. This is something that interests me because I like the legendaries. I think there's a lot of changes that he made. I think all of them should just be throughput legendaries instead of they're kind of saying, well, maybe they should all be utility. I think the other way around. I think they should all be strong and give you the same relative amount of throughput. So let's say 3 to 5% increased damage by all legendaries by the effect on them. Why not? I mean, there's no reason against that, really. Personal loot trading rules. A lot of people are confused on that. The toxic little chat on the side, people are like, only casuals are confused. I don't know all the rules myself. I wouldn't consider myself casual. He agreed they were confusing. One thing he did mention is the whole personal loot trading was thought about more as a pug raider, not for organized raiding. And they kind of got into a good example, really, to where if you could trade your bonus roll, for example, to get your main tank in your guild a trinket, you can make everyone who could set loop specialization to Prot and roll for the trinket and then trade it to him. So they didn't want you to be able to do that, so that was one example that they used, was actually a good example. And their whole idea of helping a pug raider, being able to get his own item, not have to worry about a master looter, that wasn't a bad example either. Adding more effects on gear. This is something I liked a lot in this expansion. There's been a lot of dungeon gear that has like little effects on them or little 2-set bonuses, and they go into that as well. Basically he said that that was one of the main things that they talked about: war forging, titan forging, legendary items, and then effects on random gear. They want to have more of that, which I think is cool because more choice for the player. So right now there's a couple classes that really need, like there's a warrior best in slot. I think there's some death knight stuff that you really want, and you kind of need to be at the top tier and you have to farm it. So I think if there was more items that gave you similar output, kind of how I said all legendaries give you 3 to 5%, have more effect items that all give you, 1, 2, 3%, whatever, more damage, and that way you have more choices for it. But so you still get the cool effect without having to maybe farm for weeks and weeks and weeks, or never get it and feel disappointed or quit because you didn't get it. I asked about making dungeon trinkets better. Well, we had the exact opposite problem before, where dungeon trinkets were better than all the Emerald Nightmare trinkets. Now Nighthold trinkets are pretty much better than everything else. I could care less about this, really. I think Nighthold trinkets are strong, and I think they should be strong because that's the current raid, and I think the next raid trinket should be stronger than them. That's kind of how it's always been, and I don't see any problem with that. More mini dungeon sets, I kind of went over that already. They do want to do that as well, so not just effects on the items, but like mini dungeon sets, or like a 2-piece or a 4-piece set even, or just a dungeon set in general. They did talk about, so like having a 6-piece dungeon set. So if you think about BC, that was one that I remember very vividly, having kind of a BC dungeon set. Obviously there wasn't vanilla as well. I don't remember after BC having that, but they kind of do want to reintroduce that, so I thought that was kind of cool. So basically it wouldn't be nearly as strong as the raid tier set, but it would give you something to wear until you got that. A question was asked about raiding without tiers not being as fun. I completely agree with that. First of all, I was very disappointed that there wasn't tier gear in Emerald Nightmare. However, he did mention that it's not like it's unprecedented. It's kind of what they have been doing for a while now, where the first raid is not going to have tier gear in it. He had actually good reasons for why not having it, so I can't really disagree too much, even though I just kind of like having the tier gear, having the tier sets. Makes you feel cool. If you played since vanilla, you might have a different view on tier gear because you just looked up to everyone with tier gear when you started out, and you like thought it was so cool. Or even if you started right when the game came out and you got your first piece of it, like tier 0 or something, or tier 1, you just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I think some of us are more inclined to be in love with the tier gear than others. This is actually kind of cool for anybody who's raiding. So are you going to be able to do 2 set of tier 19 and the 4 set of tier 20? As of right now, yes. So you'll be able to keep using your 2 set bonus from Nighthold while using your 4 set bonus from Vault. So as of right now, that's going to be okay. They want to give the player that option if they want it. However, if it's basically required that you keep your 2-piece, because your DPS won't be good enough without it, then they might nerf it or change that in some way or not let you do it at all. So they're going to wait and see, but at least for the starter of it, you will be able to do that. The last thing I wrote down that was interesting was about heirlooms. Heirlooms to 110. So for leveling alts, right now heirlooms only go up to 100. Yes, but it won't be towards the end of expansion, which is pretty much what you expect, because that's how it's always been. They don't make it so you can just level your alts up super fast. Now people who love leveling alts, that might be annoying, but it's not very difficult to level between 100 and 110 anyways, as long as your character's rested, which if you're mostly playing on your main character, it's not hard to have an alt be rested, especially if you can cycle between a couple alts. That's all the stuff I wrote down, like my opinions on it. So let me know what you guys think. If you watched it, maybe you had different takeaways from it or whatever else. I thought it was pretty interesting, and there is going to be another one next week, mostly focusing on 7.2 content. So I'll definitely have a video up for that as well. As always, have a good one. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Thumbs up and sub as always. Also comment below, share the videos. Appreciate it so much. You can also check me out at Twitter at WowGamingInc. And at Twitch with the tag name Kneecap Killa. So everyone have a good one and see you again soon.